Alrighty, guys. So, I have been thinking about some various campaigns that I want to run. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get around to each and every one of these, but yeah, it's just been some stuff that I've been thinking about. Okay, so first campaign that I was thinking about, Scruff Riders. So, this is basically like the World War I, but in my brother's fantasy setting, End of Empires. So it's just World War I with elves and dragons and dwarves and all of that stuff. I would take. I think I would take a lot of inspiration from like that movie 1917. That's definitely the kind of like feeling I would want to capture. I get that there probably wouldn't be a ton of role play, like specific acting scenes. Like I do imagine there'd be a fair bit amount with your other fellow soldiers and whatnot. But then once you're like out there and like on your own, like maybe there's like a you run into the equivalent of the like French peasant living in the occupied town or whatever. Um, but yeah, but like heavily like realistic, heavily simulationist kind of approach, and simulation. One of those types of games where you if you get shot, you're probably gonna die. Like you're not. This ain't one of them D&D. You're surviving getting hit 20 times or whatever. This is like a closer to like Call of Cthulhu or something and how it would actually play. So yeah, I do think I would go for like the survival horror type of angle. I think it would be like the general premise would be like something simple, like you're just trying to get this message to so and so person, or just trying to get to this one place, deliver this one thing, like some relatively simple minor objective that is just made extremely difficult from the fact that this would be like it represented the gameplay would be like real war. You just die. I think I'd want to take the comrade mechanic from Only War. So you have like a little follower guy, like an extra soldier that's like following your character around, and that kind of acts like as an extra life. So like if you would die, your comrade can just die instead. I think generally the character creation process I would want to be extremely fast, and like probably like entirely randomized, so that if your character does die, you can just roll up a new one in like 5 minutes and just get right back into it. Um, yeah, because I definitely I would want to capture that feeling of the World War I, the meat grinder of just running into the machine gun and just getting like mowed down. Um, that I do think both teach a lesson to myself as a DM to be more willing to like kill characters and teach lessons to the players and having them deal with their characters dying. So I think that's what that could accomplish usefully towards people growing as both me as a DM and players as players and whatnot. But that I've been thinking about the Scruff Riders campaign for a long, long time. This has been on the back burner for like years at this point. This is the first RPG system I ever made was actually for this idea for Scruff Riders, but that it was not survival horror at all. It was in fact, if anything, one of those like mecha animes that every faction had their own sort of like mecha stuff, vaguely in the lines of like War Machine, that sort of like steampunk diesel punk mech thing going on, kind of like Scythe. Um, so yeah, I would probably like maybe there would be a couple of like mechs running around, but it definitely that would not be the core focus of the game as the party as mech pilots or whatever. Okay, the other campaign that I wanted to run, Vampire the Masquerade or Hunter the Reckoning. Both of these, when I really tried like getting into being a DM, these are like among the first two campaigns I had ever run. And I have learned a lot since then, and I've got a ton of things I could do better uh, now with all my knowledge and experience. I think both of these campaigns were pretty flat, not particularly super memorable. Um, so okay, so between I don't necessarily think I have to run both of these. I just want to run one or the other. Vampire the Masquerade is pretty cool and fun because it's relatively unique in that you're playing a vampire, which you don't really do in any other role playing game. Whereas Hunter the Reckoning, you're basically just playing a dude, which you can do in like any game. So Vampire the Masquerade, I do like that whole horror y element of slipping into the beast and that struggle, which I really like struggled to run the first time. I just eventually I got to the point like I get now the importance of actually having people like play through and go on their hunts and like actually have to like collect the blood from like innocent people or whatever, which I definitely like I started getting lazy with and just like assumed like okay guys, yeah, that was last session, so I assume everyone has gone on their hunts and everyone has replenished all their blood, and then it basically just became like all right, yeah, you guys are superheroes and you got all your superhero magic back, and I started like missing the whole point of it. uh I do think if I were to run Vampire the Masquerade again, I would want to go really deep into like the city as a character, city as a living organism kind of thing. Now I've always set these campaigns, these White Wolf campaigns in Philadelphia before because that's what my friends are familiar with. But generally, it's basically been pretty interchangeable. Like it could have been any city. I just happened to use the names of churches and businesses and whatever of places that happen to be in Philadelphia, but didn't necessarily have anything to do with that city specifically. So now I want to make it like very specifically that city. Very much so on that Disco Elysium Shivers angle. I just watched 25th Hour, which kind of has got like a wire thing going on. It is about all the interactions of all the various institutions inside a city, and how they all interact with each other. Like the education system and the docks and or at least in the wire, the docks and the crime and the courts and the journalism and all of those angles. So yeah, I'd really want to go deep into that angle this time, and I'd also want to do go deep into the history of Philadelphia. Now I get that when you're trying to incorporate real life history, the things can go really wrong really fast. God, I'm trying to remember what what the White Wolf Chechnya was. That the I think it was Chechnya where they had like a genocide or something. Like a relatively recent genocide where they like killed a bunch of like gay people. And then because you fall into that angle of like, no, 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 it's not evil, horrific, homophobic, psychopathic, corrupt humans that are responsible. No, the humans are fine. It's actually the evil vampires behind anything that are the problem. Which, you don't want to accidentally take away that like moral like responsibility or that moral obligation or whatever that like that the humans have that like they're responsible for, and say that it's not actually their fault. So in the grand scheme of what I think I could get away with in Philadelphia, I think generally any specific moment or tragedy or anything where real victims are still alive from it, you probably don't want to do any of those. So, like, move bombing, you probably don't want to say, oh, no, that wasn't racist cops and the mayor. No, 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 it was actually the vampires that were responsible for that. Um, but like any Civil War, Revolutionary War stuff, I think I could definitely get away with that. I think it would be fun to make every session a little mini history lesson about like a thing in Philadelphia. Um, Now, I guess where I think I watched that Channel Five Philadelphia documentary and the whole like trank fentanyl problem, um, which on the one hand, ooh, that just does very much so like line up with like all the themes of Vampire the Masquerade, but you really don't want to do that in a direction where you accidentally like dehumanize the victims and like um so that I think would be a delicate balance, but now I think I actually understand the interesting parts of like Vampire the Masquerade. And yeah, if I were to do that campaign again, I would be able to like really focus on those like beast losing humanity angles. Um, Hunter the Reckoning also quite cool. Possibly like my favorite RPG of all time, potentially. Now, on the one hand, again, kind of sketchy, and that the general main premise is it's basically like you guys are all members of QAnon, and QAnon is real, and they are right. There genuinely, unironically, is baby eating pedophile cults that rule the entire world, made up of elder vampires that control everything and sacrifice people to Moloch, basically. And you guys are the warriors of God, or whoever you believe the messengers to be, to run out there and fight them. And I like absolutely love that premise. The first time I ran it though, I absolutely missed the mark though, because the whole point of like Hunter the Reckoning, or at least half the point. So okay, so you have like every session is just like a built-in like monster of the week type of thing, and that and the lore I think I got pretty good the first time we ran it, but I was missing an entire 50% of the entire purpose of the game, which is the fact that like yeah, you've got that like a plot of oh my god, there's a vampire running around and eating babies or whatever, and then there's the B plot, or there's supposed to be the B plot of like yeah, and then you like come home and your wife is mixing a bowl of cake mix or whatever and is taking care of three kids and is on her cell phone, and it's like, where have you been for the past 3 days? Like, you can't just leave. And then you got the like A plot, vampire eating the world, and then B plot, you're getting a divorce. The first time I played Hunter the Reckoning, I just let every single person play some combination of an independent, no family, homeless, totally loner. Um, and I was okay with that because I was honestly, since I was still incredibly new to DMing, I was very scared of trying to handle those like hyper drama, the like that I would have been quite scared to try to pull off that like you come home and your wife asks for a divorce. Um, but now as a DM, that is like the only thing I want to do is just talk about those like real life angles. Um, and like really like try playing those scenes out. So I really want to give Hunter of the Reckoning another shot, but this time do it well and like not be scared of like running those dramatic scenes. Um, Also, I really like Hunter of the Reckoning because kind of in that Monster of the Week kind of angle, it's a really easy excuse to explore all the lore of all the various White Wolf games, because you can have like this session it's the werewolf that's the monster, this session it's the vampire, this session it's the witch, the mage, this session it's the fae, this session it's the ghosts. You just have a very easy reason to explore all the different books, and I absolutely love. Well, even though White Wolf has made a lot of mistakes, but I still love all that OG White Wolf lore. I am a huge fan. Okay. So yeah, that's Hunter the Reckoning. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. History of Philly. I guess I think okay. Yeah, just as both a player or both as a DM and I think for my players, I think this would either one of these would be a great excuse to start exploring, to really do that exposure therapy and like force people to do those real life dramatic scenes of talking about drama and like your scene or your family and your friends and your life falling apart, and really doing like the try hard like acting improv, um which I think would just be a great thing to like get better at. Okay, Turnip 28. So this, I absolutely love the world of Turnip 28, and I like have just been absolutely like obsessed with it and the idea of it. And I want to try making an RPG for it. I did see someone has actually already done this, but they made like an extremely like simple, not like bad, but like just like very like rules light, like bare bones type of thing for it. But I like a lot of the ideas that they created for it. I think I would probably take this in a little bit more of like a dungeon world apocalypse. Whoa, God, what's it called? Apocalypse World? Is that what it's called? Um, but like definitely on the simpler sides, like not very crunchy. The theming, the tone, just like full Monty Python absurdity hijinks. Not really trying to say anything about themes or characters or anything. Not trying to make a commentary. Uh, oh God, the air raid siren. Okay. Uh, but yeah, just pure hijinks, pure goofiness. I think this would help to sort of, be an excuse to like encourage the absurd. I was sort of thinking about this from that angle of the cool dad, who's like, hey, teenage son, you should do drugs and drink alcohol. And then, the active like nature of a rebellious teen would be to like, well, I'm gonna do anything other than experiment with drugs and alcohol. I'm gonna be stone cold sober. By doing the turn of 28 and actively like demanding that people use this as the opportunity to create your Jiminy McCocksucker the 22nd, just like doing this to go out of my way to actively ask people to create the most silly nonsense characters, hopefully just to like get that out of people's systems. And not even that I think that's just my players. I do this all the time in my campaigns where I just like get bored and then I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna throw in a silly gnome, even though it might not fit tonally and this might not be an appropriate place for a comic relief moment or character. I'm just like, oh man, I just want to throw a silly gnome in here, even though it doesn't make sense. So I want to be able to get the silliness out of my system too. And I think Turn of 28 would be, yeah. Also, I think this would just be, if I did have like new players coming into the role play experience, I think Turn of 28 would be a good place for that, just because there wouldn't really be anything to screw up. They're like you can't screw up being an improv master or whatever if it's just pure absurdity. You can make up whatever nonsense you want. Oh, yeah, I did want to talk about like the length of each of these shots, these campaigns too. So Scruff Riders, I think, would be on the shorter end, maybe like 2 to 3 shot. There is certainly something that I want to capture to that kind of like gruelingness of World War I. That like that zero progress being made in no man's land. Like we take an inch, they take an inch, and I feel like you need at least a minimum amount of length in order to actually get that point across. That even said, I do think that this would probably be just horribly like sad and like uh just a very tragic game to play through if I do it right, which probably could just get like depressing to play an extended game of. Vampire the Masquerade, Hunter the Reckoning. I've just got so much that I want to do for these campaigns that, especially to really sink our teeth into the dramatics of the scenes and the characters, you just need like a good amount of length. Whereas Scruff Fighters, I'm not too particularly concerned with the characters themselves, more so just capturing the genre. Vampire the Masquerade, this would be like deep character exploration, so we would need a good fair amount of time to actually like get into it. Turn of 28, silliness wears thin pretty quickly, so I would want to capture that feeling of the like going on a quest, which I feel like you need at least a little bit amount of time to really go on a quest. But again, not a deep character exploration or anything, so this could be definitely on the shorter side, like 3 sessions or so. Paranoia. I've been doing. I've actually like written a good fair amount for the actual campaign itself, or like the session itself for Paranoia. Um, which Paranoia, another very just comic goofiness, maybe ever so slightly less goofy than Turn of 28, but still like very close. It's basically like a parody of that whole like 1984. You guys are all in Alpha Complex, and you are workers for a friend computer. But it isn't necessarily a thing where you guys are like, you're not like rebels trying to blow up friend computer or something, trying to dismantle the system from the inside. But mostly just like straight up trying to do what friend computer tells you to do, through and like trying to interpret all the like the double speak and all of that to figure out how to actually go across your mission, and just like work through very Brazil the movie esque, and that Kafka esque just absurd amounts of bureaucracy, where generally the main joke is like, hey, you got one thing you're trying to do. Like the one thing you're trying to do is just this extraordinarily simple, like replace this one light bulb or whatever. That's your whole mission. And then you just have to go through swaths and swaths of paperwork, and going to this office and then going to that office and running into all the silly characters on your way to do that. Um, so yeah, that's like the main gimmick, which I feel like that's probably best suited for just like a one shot kind of thing. Paranoia has some very fun character creation going on, where you actively like take away points from other people. It's like, yeah, you've got a -3 to chutzpah, so I can take your +3 to chutzpah. And I think this game also has like bootlicking as a skill, which is just hilarious, which I think would be very I think it would be very good in like Turn of 28 too. That they're both kind of the same in that like you're generally just like listening to your higher ups. Except I imagine the Turn of 28 campaign, you guys would be the so-called like nobles, like starting your own cult, your own toffs and toadies. But the main gimmick that I would want to do, that's like kind of like a part of paranoia, but not necessarily like built into it, is the sort of secret Hitler uh, angle that I would want to try to make, but good, where everyone has like a secret role within the game. Like every character, probably hand out envelopes and then people open them up and see like, you are a member of the Communist Party and your goal is to create an equal society for your workers or whatever. And then there would be this game within the session of like, so obviously you guys are all trying to complete that mission of replace the light bulb, but also you are trying to rat everyone else to friend computer, and reveal that they are like a communist or whatever. Now, how I would actually go about doing that, I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking right now I would just have lots and lots and lots of extra envelopes and rolls, and just every single time you die and you get one of your new clones comes out, then you just get a new envelope with a new roll, and that roll was specifically attached to that one clone. That's how I think I would do that. Not 100% sure, but I like that sort of like secret Hitlery angle of, the game is called Paranoia. You're not supposed to trust anyone else on your team. That's like the point of the game. Paranoia. I've like written this one shot like years ago at this point, and I do really want to try running this. What do I think I was as a DM would get out of this, and the players would get out? Well, I think this would do a good job of encouraging and like teaching players, like inter-party conflict, like actively encouraging them to seek out having a problem with their fellow party members. And I think, as a DM, it would sort of teach me how to facilitate that and like how to run that well in such a way that it is fun and not like unfun for people. Because that is a problem that can certainly occur with that inter-party conflict. It is a very delicate thing to handle. Okay, another thing I want to try. So this one, the Battle of Heathen Gate, just a mega one shot, like an all day, like 8 hour long super one shot. This I would want to run basically to be a conclusion to the that previous campaign that I had been running, the Storm the Castle campaign, just as a way to sort of wrap that all up and make it feel like a satisfying conclusion. I'd basically just skip to the very end of the campaign, skip to the part where we have that final mega battle between all the players and the Corpse Weaver. Probably just like get everyone up, like level everyone up to level 12. And then this would just be like one mega giant battle. Also, I've just got tons and tons of terrain that I've been making for Mordheim, or which you would know as Mordheim, but as a cool kid, 9th Age skirmish battles. But yeah, so I got tons and tons of terrain, so I'd want to just like set up this massive set piece on the 6x4 table, give everyone a chance to do their final moments as their character. Just one, it would honestly like probably be very hardly even a role play kind of session. It would just be full on battle. I'd want to get my brother in on it and have him, run the Corpse Weaver. Maybe I'd ideally even try to do the thing where we've got like 2 DMs running at the same time, split the combat into like 2 separate battles. That way we can have 2 initiatives going at the same time just to speed up the whole process, cut the whole process in half. Now, what I'm not sure exactly how to handle is how, like, obviously players' characters can't survive for a full, like, what would equivalently probably be just like 8 encounters in a row. Um, so I'd probably not sure how to contrive this in such a way to make it happen, but I would want like probably everyone playing their characters at the beginning of the session, so that they can sort of get caught up with what's going on with and like have that connection point of their previous characters to sort of bridge the gap, and we sort of figure out what has happened to them since that where we left off with that campaign and where we are right now. But then to make sure that they don't just die before they actually get to the main final conflict, probably just have them play like side characters, like various NPCs or whatever, for like the middle meat part, and then those side characters can just die however, whenever. Um, which will keep that tension high as like people are still getting lost and losing characters or whatever. And then at the end of this of that session, when we start the like final boss fight part, then bring back everyone's characters, and have them all play as their regular main characters again. And then this way, if they die, they're not just dying to a random middle of the battle conflict. Now, if they die, they're fighting and dying in the main final boss fight, So that I think would be okay. But yeah, generally, I just think this one, I don't even necessarily think it would have. I guess it would be a chance now that I've gone super mega deep on the like role play angle of D&D. Just give me another chance to do the whole combat side of D&D, just go all in on that and see if I can like incorporate the lessons that I've learned. But generally just use this as an excuse to like have a satisfying narrative conclusion to that last campaign, so it's not just hanging off into infinity and just like I don't want that last campaign to have felt like a waste of time. And also at the various like games day conventions, they always have these like mega battles, like they do like the Battle of Helm's Deep, where there would just be like 5,000 like orc minis, and then like they would literally have like 20 games of Lord of the Rings going on at the same time that were all like on separate tables but just all lined up. And those are awesome. I absolutely love those, and I kind of want to do my own sort of take on trying that out. Except, yeah, it would be for D&D, and I got tons and tons of terrain that I just really want to use that I've just not used for anything at all. Okay, so yeah, Battle of Heathen Gate. I think that would be a fun event. Okay, and finally, I have been jonesing. I have been wanting to do. I want to try the West Marches again. Now I think I screwed up in a lot of ways for that previous West Marches campaign. Like okay, like the whole point of the West Marches campaign is that it's all in on that sort of simulationist exploration angle. And I started off the last West Marches like that, and then very quickly devolved into sort of classic narrative-based D&D. Which, the more I think about it, the more I think was actually a crutch rather than a good way of handling that campaign. I was so scared of there not being any sort of story element, and I was so scared of there not being any kind of like that no satisfying narrative would come out of our sessions, that I just wrote in that like satisfying narrative stuff would come up. Like generally how you're supposed to run a West Marches is like, okay, here's all the dungeons around you, and here's the full simulationist list of all the stuff that is like inside those dungeons, and here's like just the objective facts of here are the factions and what they're doing and all that yada yada. But I would, instead of writing my West Marches sessions like that, and it's just like here's the dungeons that are around and here's the stuff that's inside those dungeons, I would write like, and in this session your long lost estranged uncle shows up. Now shall this become a session and a story of how you learn to set aside the past and you learn to forgive and learn to, love each other and get past all those things that have happened? Or will this become a story of how we learn how you can't always forgive everything, and sometimes people have done bad things in the past, and now you just need to learn to live with it, and this is a story of how you need to move on. And I would try to set up stuff like that, and then more often than not, it would just result in these awkwards instead of either of those things happening, to just be like, yep, you guys are doing the thing that you guys were already going to be doing, but also your uncle is there on the side hanging out if you want to hang out and interact with him, which is just not narratively satisfying at all. And also, like, I get that I definitely could have probably handled that better, and that if I just, instead of just coming up with that conflict and that character and introducing them, to actually introduce an actionable like dilemma, like an actual, like, present an actual situation where you have to make a choice between one or the other, to like sort of actually force that conflict, that dilemma to come out. Which on the other hand, there's a very, very fine line between the whole railroading and making a satisfying narrative story. But I really want to try this again with, everything that I've learned from D&D, all the research I've done, all the millions of videos I've watched, and all the like thought I've put into like the various campaigns and stuff. Take all the lessons I've learned, and ideally all the players and the lessons that the players have learned now that they are good players and they understand the whole improv and narratives and characters and drama and all that stuff. Go back, try the West Marches again. Full simulationist, full exploration based. None of this, here's the dramatic thing that's going to happen this session, but just write the sessions from the angle of this is what's there and this is what's happening. And then just rely upon all of our improv skills to actually create those emergent narrative moments, and to actually be able to just come up with interesting stories with what is just objectively there, to sort of just focus all my prep on the full immersion angle, to like really, really get people into feeling that this world is alive and real and actually exists, which ideally will then make those emergent narrative moments feel entirely organic and real and deserved, rather than me just writing this episode's script and just hoping that all the players sort of play along with it, and like, while I'm reading from my television episode pilot screenplay, my oh god, what do you call that? Oh Jesus Christ, my like spec script, and just hoping the players play along with it. Nope, just fully rely upon our learned and improved improv skills that we have gained from all these various campaigns that we've run before this. Okay, so yeah, that is my grand arching long scheme thoughts that I have on things. Um, yeah, so that's it. I guess hopefully, just in general, I do want to try getting specifically like new players, like even new to RPGs entirely. Just try to convince some new people to give it a shot, and hopefully use some of these as like opportunities to do that. And then maybe I can trick them into joining the West Marches too, and then I can get the full like 12, 20, whoever knows, I don't know, just tons of people into the West Marches campaign to make it a real, truly proper West Marches campaign, rather than fall into that thing that happened with the last campaign where we just had like core like 3 players that showed up every session. I guess that's the other thing that I really did wrong with that last West Marches is um, I really should have set up and really established from the beginning the stable of characters idea rather than people doing the old like uh, people saying like, well, I want to keep playing my one guy and I want to play my one character. Um, which again, on the one hand, I certainly see the appeal and the reason why people would want to just play their one character. But again, for that dungeon crawling, going on a quest experience, it's extraordinarily hard to write a session where you got a level 2 character running around with a level 8 character, and to not make that level 2 character feel like they're basically worthless and just tagging along. uh, so yeah, but basically, yeah, I think I've learned tons and tons and tons of lessons from that last campaign, and hopefully from all these various campaigns that I hopefully get a chance to run before doing this. um, and I will be able to give the West Marches style the good solid like attempt that it deserves. Um, okay, so yep, that is everything. That is the end.